Welcome to 1000 PS, welcome to the launch of the Ducati's new XDiavel. And we are in the south of France, although it looks like an underground car park in Birmingham. But believe it or not, we started the test in absolute perfect conditions, and it's ended the test in biblical, freezing, horrible rain that I'd normally associate with Scotland. But that has given us the ability to test all the rider aids and all the technology of the new XDiavel. So if you cast your mind back to a few years ago, Ducati launched the new Diavel, which I rode in, was it Dubai or was it Qatar? I forget. But the big talking point of that bike was it had almost transformed from the 1260 Diavel to the V4 model, and it was almost like a big street fighter or a mega monster. It handles really well, the lightweight handling, the counter-rotating engine really made a difference, and I was really impressed by the handling, but it almost split it even more from the XDiavel. But the XDiavel for a couple of years stayed as a 1260, but have a guess what they've done? Ta-da! We now have a V4 XDiavel. So what that means is we've got more power, 168 horsepower if I remember off the top of my head. We've got a little less torque, but not much. We've got 6 kilograms less power, and compared to the previous XDiavel, Ducati have kind of tried to make the bike a little bit comfier, change the rear ride height, change the rear suspension, move the bar position. It's very much different from the previous 1260 because we've got the new V4, new chassis, new engine. And it's very different from the standard Diavel because those bikes have almost had like a lover's tiff and a really bad argument and have just split slightly. So now we've got like a almost street fighter and very much a cruiser. As you'd expect from Ducati, we've got a plethora of rider aids. So we've got 4 rider modes, we've got lean sensitive ABS, we've got traction control, launch control, cruise control, quick shifter, everything you could possibly want from a sporty cruiser. And because of the conditions, we've had to use all those modes. What's also really interesting with the XDiavel and Diavel is they have the rear deactivation of the back 2 cylinders. Now on the standard Diavel, that transition is really smooth, it's seamless. It's like driving a luxury BMW or a Mercedes, you know, when it's going through the gears, it's just seamless. Where Ducati have deliberately given the bike a little bit more character. So below 4,000 RPM, you have a little bit of a gurgle, a little bit of a burble. You can feel that it's just on 2 cylinders, and that gives it a bit of character. And you can ride it as a twin to about 80 kilometers an hour. But if you give it a big handful of throttle, no matter what the gear, once you've given it the torque request, then it will kick onto all 4 cylinders. Now it doesn't matter which mode you're in. So if you're in wet, urban, touring or sport, the deactivation is exactly the same, which I think Ducati might play with in the future, because to me it makes more sense to have a different deactivation of the back cylinders in urban and wet compared to touring and sport. In those modes, you kind of feel the difference definitely between wet, urban and sport and touring. Wet and urban are pretty similar, to be honest, it's just the rider aids. But touring and sport have a very different feel. And what's really cool is you can change those rider aids, you can change those modes, and if you switch it off and switch it back on again, it's saved. So I had kind of like a really immature, stupid sports mode with no traction and no wheelie control, so I could just have some fun. And then touring mode, I left standard. So when you're in perfect conditions, up in the mountains and away from the police, you can have some fun. And without having to stop and reselect all the models, you can quickly turn, close the throttle, go into touring mode, and you're back into a safe mode. The clocks, I think, are pretty similar to the ones that are on the Panigale. They're all new and are different to the clocks that are on the standard Diavel, if I remember right. In terms of styling and looks, as you'd expect from Ducati, it's unique, it's top end, and it's beautiful. The red is kind of like a different red. It's not the normal Ducati red that we expect. I kind of like it, but there might be some big Ducati fans who, if you chop in the middle it says Ducati, who might not like the kind of new look of the new red. But in terms of styling and an appeal and desirability, it's right up there as you'd expect. Suspension is fully adjustable, front and rear, big Brembo brakes, cruise control comes as standard. The only thing that would be nice if it came standard would be the heated grips, which is not normally something that I expect when I'm in the south of France, but today has been freezing. The suspension works really well. It is manually adjustable. It is not semi-active. It's not like a Ducati Panigale V4S or Ducati Street Fighter V4S. So when you change the modes are changing the power, the rider aids and suspension stays the same. So if you want to change suspension, you have to do it manually. But for me, as a 80 kilogram-ish rider, I've not wanted to change the suspension whatsoever. The rake and trail is different to the standard Diavel. It's much more relaxed, it's much more easygoing. The standard Diavel is a lot faster steering and a lot more agile, but this steers still really well. It's still agile, and to be honest, I think there's plenty of ground clearance. You can get the pegs to tickle the tarmac, but you've kind of almost got to ride it past its limitations or past where you should ride it. There's loads of grip from this massive Pirelli rear rubber. There's loads of grip from the front. There's loads of ground clearance. There's loads of feel. So you can get the pegs on the ground. But some people may criticize it and say the pegs touch. But for me, when you compare it to other bikes in this category, it's got way more ground clearance. Compared to other sporty cruisers in this segment, this would run rings around any sporty cruiser. And if Ducati were clever enough and fitted some solid bags and we could enter it into the bagger racing, it would be interesting. Now, normally when we do these tests at 1000 PS, we always say, we can't wait till we ride it against the competition. And then the competition is quite difficult. Like, you could put the Triumph Rocket in there, which got loads of power, but it's heavier. You could put Indian in there, you could put Harley Davidson in there, but I think that the Ducati would run absolute rings around it in terms of braking performance, in terms of power, in terms of handling. In terms of looks, that's down to your individual taste. Some people are going to really like the Ducati, the 4-exit and exhaust, the unique high-end feel, and the fact that it says Ducati on the side, where some people are more traditionalists are going to love something air-cooled or water-cooled from America. That is down to personal taste. And finally, a lot of it will come down to price. In the UK, it's just under £26,000, which I know is a lot of money, but other bikes in this segment are around about the same price once you spec them up to this level. It is a lot of money, but in some dream scenarios, in some dream garages, this is going to be the perfect second or third bike. I've thoroughly enjoyed riding the bike today. I quite like how Ducati have taken the cruiser market somewhere a little bit different. It would have been easy for them to follow everybody else and produce a kind of laid back, easy cruiser, but that's not Ducati's way, in my opinion. Ducati's way is to win MotoGP and to win at World Superbikes and to give you something unique and sporty, and that's their take on cruising. It's cruising, it's comfortable, it's soft and it's beautiful around town, but if you want to embarrass a sports bike on a twisty road, it's more than capable. Hope you enjoyed our quick spin on the new XDiavel. If you want any more technical information, please fire them below and we'll get back to you. The suspension travel has changed on the rear. We can give you the rake, we can give you the trail, we can give you the wet weights. That can all be fired in below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one, and hopefully it'll be a little bit more glamorous than an underground car park.